It's exhausting, but I was very pleased. I think the day I'm satisfied conducting Beethoven 5 is the day I'll give up, because you can never be satisfied. It'll be different next time because I'll be a different person. The weather will be different, the orchestra will be different, everything will be different, the hall will be different, the audience will be different. The music has to be different. The music doesn't exist without us. And if we're different, it's going to be different.
Tuesday the 9th, heard about a competition. 17 days to compose a big piece. It's a very short deadline.
Wednesday the 17th, only 12 days to go.
I honestly don't think I'm going to get any good ideas on camera. It's just related to autism. People feel so locked in their own world that they can't really communicate with other people.
Saturday the 27th, I've finished.
The Secret Life of Joseph Erber, aged 12 3/4, begins the new series of video diaries, Saturday at 10:55 on BBC Two.
Millions of people in their 20s and 30s are heading for disaster.
It's going to crucify me, personally.
They face a poverty-stricken old age.
Who's going to pick up the bill for tomorrow?
And an impossible solution. The pensions crisis examined in Compass, a new series which reveals the big picture behind the policies. Monday at 7:30 on BBC Two.
From the World Cup final in Paris to developments in digital TV, with predictions of the year ahead, Peter Snow presents The World in 1998.
Good evening. What do we know for sure about the year ahead? Enough to be certain that it's going to be packed with exciting, sometimes extraordinary events. And I'm going to take you on an unashamed leap into 1998, together with people we've spoken to who play a central role in a number of events that may surprise you. Now, this is not speculation. We'll be sticking to what we know will happen in the year about to begin. It may, in the end, be remembered more for its tragedies and disasters than for its achievements. But whatever sadness it may bring, 1998 will see great advances too, in all fields of human endeavour, in technology, medicine, art, economics and sport. And we go beyond earthly limits too. One of the most extraordinary events of 1998 will be taking place miles above us, the latest and most sophisticated stage in mankind's colonization of outer space. Space, still the final frontier. In 1998, the final frontier will get its first fully functional frontier post, an international orbiting space station. Essentially, the space station will be a gigantic laboratory with living spaces attached. It'll be big enough to be visible to the naked eye from Earth, and will cost $17 billion to build, and a further $13 billion to run. This is to be the most ambitious space project since the Apollo moon mission.
We've got the whole world working together to build a platform in space 220 miles above the Earth that we can do incredible research on.
Individual components will be built on Earth and transported by shuttle for assembly in space. It'll take 38 space flights over 5 years to complete what is the first truly global international space project. The cargo block, American-funded but Russian-built, goes up in June. Then in July, the first US-built component will be launched from the Kennedy Space Center on the first Space Shuttle assembly mission. This American node will be the nerve center of the whole space station. 15 countries in all are cooperating. Britain will decide the nature of its contribution next year.
The International Space Station will be able to have up to 7 crews once we complete the assembly. The astronauts will be able to move around about 6 laboratories where they'll be doing intense research. They will have sleeping quarters. They will have a place to sit and have food and dinner. They will also have a bathroom. They will also have windows which they can observe the Earth and look outside, daydream, I'm sure.
NASA says the space station is critical if mankind is going to maintain its capacity to use space to make the scientific breakthroughs that can only be achieved in space. And NASA points to past space research successes like the development of pacemakers, which can be programmed outside the body. In an atmosphere of zero gravity, the laboratories will pursue treatments for cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, and hormonal disorders. But enthusiasm for the space station is not universal. Some scientists we've spoken to doubt it'll contribute much to scientific research.
We're looking for science that you can't do somewhere else. And there is only one environmental variable that is different on a space station from any place else, and that's zero gravity. Now, we can get zero gravity for short periods of time terrestrially, and it's not a very important variable. Scientists keep looking for something that zero gravity will have a big effect on, and they haven't really found it yet.
But its supporters argue the space station will provide unique opportunity.
The impacts of gravity on us today on the ground causes crystal growth, materials and so forth to react differently. When we get them into space, we can get breakthrough technology in a different way, and we're hopeful that going through this type of research will bring new breakthroughs to medical environments and so forth. So this atmosphere there can't be simulated on the ground. We can simulate certain things on the ground, but not get to the exact type of environment that you get in space.
The only crystals that are being grown in space are molecular crystals, DNA crystals. Protein crystallography is an important field of science, but the entire market for protein crystals is a few $1 million per year. You simply can't invest billions of dollars to grow protein crystals. The space station is certainly hideously costly, but if there were something important enough that we were getting out of it, of course we'd want to do it. And the question is, do the returns justify the enormous expense that's involved?
With the International Space Station, we can't say today that we're going to be able to cure cancer. We can't say tomorrow that we're going to produce a new product. But if you don't go out and you don't explore and you don't go out and try and find out what's beyond the reach, I think we stop really growing, our imagination stops, and I think what happens with the space environment is you've got people that want to take on the next risk.
1998 will see even fiercer debate about man's biggest and most sophisticated attempt yet to live and work in outer space. Will it really enhance our knowledge of the universe, or simply devour resources desperately needed for more urgent research? All that will cost a colossal amount of money. It's a £20 billion project, the equivalent of roughly 3 Channel tunnels. But that's not to say that money isn't being put into medical research on Earth too. It is, and it'll show dramatic and heartening results in 1998. Supposing I mention AIDS, for example, how do you react? Convinced it's a death sentence? Well, it's not necessarily, and it certainly won't be for many next year, provided they live in the richer countries with the resources to devote to its treatment. For 18 years now, AIDS has threatened to become the most lethal scourge of the modern age. But the level of concern people have shown has changed the prognosis. In Britain and most of the Western world, 1998 will see AIDS become a disease which drugs and care can control. New Yorker Peter Fitzgibbons became HIV positive in 1986. He tells us he developed AIDS in '93.
My life is turned around. From where I was in a set pattern, a great routine, great job, to all of a sudden I'm scattered, not knowing what is going to happen next. I had had about 50, 60 friends die at that point. And the mention of AIDS was such that was immediate death.
Now, the swift death sentence once feared by Peter and millions like him has been lifted. 1998 sees advances in drug therapy improving both the lifespan and the quality of life of those who are HIV positive or have full-blown AIDS.
My regimen consists of what's called a quadruple therapy right now. That is with 2 antivirals and 1 protease. I take about 30 tablets a day. Vitamins, I take about maybe 80 to 90 with other herbal supplements and things. It's so lengthy to the point that I had to sort of sit down and map everything out on a piece of paper.
For a patient who contracts HIV in 1998, I certainly feel that they can feel comfortable that this is not automatically a death sentence. They do need to be prepared, however, to know that this is not a picnic. There is a lot of visits to the doctors, complicated medication regimens, constraints on their sexuality, their exercise, their diet, that will make this very difficult for them to continue to live with.
In 1997, 31 million people were carrying the HIV virus worldwide. It was the 8th biggest killer, causing 2.3 million deaths. In 1998, 5.8 million more people are likely to become infected. But as more new drugs come onto the market, there are the beginnings of hope for people like Peter.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
The latest drug therapies seem to be more effective because we are attacking the virus in a number of different parts of its life cycle. There are a number of enzymes or pathways that the virus must use in order to stay alive. And by blocking only one of those, the virus quickly learns how to become resistant. By blocking 3 and sometimes even 4 pathways, we can take control of the virus in that way.
So much control that some hospitals' AIDS wards in the Western world are actually closing. London's Chelsea and Westminster closed 1 ward 3 months ago.
There are not enough patients being hospitalized to keep the AIDS wards open. We are certainly seeing a lot more patients being managed almost 100% as outpatients.
There are even hospices closing because the disease is not considered terminal, and patients are being taught how to live with it rather than die from it. Prospects for survival are now good enough for at least one life insurance company to offer policies to people infected with HIV.
Our feeling is that someone who is healthy and has HIV but has no history of opportunistic diseases is on